Hey everyone, Janessa here from the blog almostheavenhomesteading.com, and today I want to take you along with me as I'm making a seasonal meal from some winter root vegetables and pantry and freezer staples. So part of what I'm going to be showing you today is from our own homestead, and some of it isn't. I guess that is the beauty of journeying towards the self-sufficient life in a modern time, that our survival doesn't depend on how our crops did, but of course realizing that that could change at any point, which is why we are on this journey. But for now, not everything is sourced from our own homestead, but some things are. The potatoes that I'm peeling right now are not. We did run out of our potatoes from our crop a couple months ago, but my goal today was to show you more so a seasonal meal rather than a meal made completely from our homestead. And so that is what I'm doing here. This is going to be cabbage rolls with mashed potatoes, green beans, and carrots. And a lot of this really is seasonal. Potatoes are definitely a root vegetable, and those are readily available during the winter. Same thing with carrots. Cabbage and the green beans are from our homestead. Those were stored. But in general, this is a very seasonal meal that I'm showing you today. So I'll just briefly tell you what I'm doing with these potatoes. These are just some classic mashed potatoes. So I'm just peeling them and chopping them up and getting them into some water so that I can boil those until tender. And then later on, I'll be mashing those, adding in some butter, some milk, salt, and pepper, and those will pair wonderfully with the cabbage rolls. So moving on to those cabbage rolls, I have a big pot of water already boiling on the stove, and I'm just adding my head of cabbage directly into that with the stem side up, and I'm just going to be removing leaves one at a time until I have about 12 or 15, and I'll show you that process a little more as I go along. Moving on to the filling, I'm just combining a pound of ground beef, a half a cup of rice, a couple eggs, about a half of a finely diced onion into a bowl, and just mixing that really well. And that's going to be the filling for these cabbage rolls. I went ahead and just seasoned that with about a teaspoon of salt and a quarter teaspoon of pepper and mixed that really thoroughly. I will say that this would have been a little bit better if I actually would have boiled my brown rice about a third of the way and then added it into my meat mixture. If this was white rice, that would be absolutely unnecessary, but since I did use the brown rice, it would have been a little bit better if I had boiled it just a little bit to soften it a little bit before adding it to the mixture. But no big deal, it still turned out wonderfully. In the directions over on the blog, I actually have that altered recipe over there with that note for the brown rice versus the white rice. Okay, let's move back to that head of cabbage that has been boiling for a few minutes at this point. I was able to go ahead and get a few leaves off, just the outer ones, and then I'm gonna have to put that lid back on and let that set in that simmering water for a few more minutes until I can get a few more leaves off. It is really helpful to use a small paring knife to just cut around the stem if you need a little extra help to get some of those leaves off of your head of cabbage. I'm just getting a couple side dishes ready as well, adding a few tablespoons of butter to some peeled carrots, celery, and onions with some salt and pepper. and those are going to be a delicious seasonal root vegetable side dish. And I'm going to go ahead and get some green beans ready, and this side dish literally takes about 2 minutes to get ready because these are our canned green beans from our homestead. So I'm just going to pop open a jar and get those heating on the stove. If you are interested in brushing up on some canning skills before the actual canning season hits this summer, then be sure to check out that tutorial over on the blog. We will have that linked below. So it's time to finish up those cabbage rolls. I kept peeling those leaves away until I had about 12, which was just right for the recipe. So to wrap these up, you're just going to place 2 to 3 tablespoons of the meat mixture in the middle of one of the cabbage leaves, and then tuck the sides in and roll it together until it forms a nice tight little roll, and just finish that with all of the rest of the meat and cabbage leaves until all of it is gone. So the cabbage rolls are almost finished, but we do have one final step where we need to make the sauce to go over it. So I combined 1 can of diced tomatoes. I got this from Azure Standard. I love stocking up on things from Azure because they have great prices and I can just buy it in bulk. And then I also used 1 16-ounce can of our home canned tomato sauce. And I combined that with the juice of 1 lemon, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, a teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And I just heated that on the stove just long enough for the sugar to dissolve. It didn't even need to come close to boiling. I just needed that sugar to dissolve, so I heated it up a little bit. Once that's done, I'm just gonna pour it over those cabbage rolls, and then I'm gonna top it with half of a sliced onion, sliced really thin. Then I'm just gonna cover these and bake them in a 375-degree oven for a couple hours, and then I'm going to remove the foil and bake them for about another hour until they are cooked all the way through and everything is nice and tender. So let's just get that finished up, and then the only thing left to do is going to be to mash those potatoes, and this dinner is going to be ready to serve. So my potatoes are boiled until nice and tender, so I just strained off all the liquid, and I'm just mashing these and adding in some butter, some milk, some salt, and some pepper. Sometimes I like to add parsley, but I don't think I did that this time. I just kept with the salt and pepper, and these are ready to go. I feel like the mashed potatoes pair really well with the cabbage rolls. Maybe that's just because that's how I grew up, and we always had mashed potatoes with cabbage rolls, but any sides that you would find delicious would be wonderful with this as well. So I'm just going to finish up those mashed potatoes, and everything should be finished up to plate this dinner and get this ready to go. I hope this video gave you all some inspiration to cook a little more seasonally in your own kitchen and embrace some seasonal vegetables and flavors, and especially in the winter, just hone into those root veggies and embrace all that the winter season has to offer. Well, thank you guys so much for stopping by our homestead yet another week. We appreciate it so much if you like and comment and subscribe, and thanks so much for investing in our channel, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.